record na natin yan. Is record. So here we have the initial notation of the vector transformation. So what does this do? Okay, if you expand this, ano ulit yung free index dito? Can anyone chat it? Ano yung free index dito sa initial notation? I. Good job. Okay? Why I? Kasi siya lang yung non-repeating sa isang term, and it's a valid equation because the free index I is present in both sides of the equation. And of course, the dummy index is J because it's repeating in the same term. Okay? So how will you expand a free index and a dummy index? So expanding a free index means that you should expand it by summing the terms. So yan, yung J is expanded to 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. And then the free index is expanded by expanding it into equations. Now, since 2D lang tayo, hanggang 2 lang yung expansion natin. But of course, this is also valid for 3D as you can see later. So ayan. So just imagining a system in 2D and writing it in additional notation, you can it will also be applicable if you expand it into 3D or even 4D if you can. Hindi na natin concern yun. Okay? So ayan, this is an example of 2D vector transformation. So we have a vector here, 2, 9. Okay? And the coordinate axis, the unprime axis, is rotated by theta equals 50 counterclockwise. Now, applying our equations earlier, we get this. How did we get this? Okay, balik tayo doon sa, yan. So, Q11 times V1, Q12 times V. So, pinag in ko lang. Alam naman natin na yung Q11 is, so this is, let me annotate. This is cosine. This is cosine. This is cosine 50. This is sine. This is negative sine. Tama? Negative sine. And this is cosine. So yan. Yan ang form kapag counterclockwise rotation. Now, if we go back here, you can see yes, cosine 50, sine 50, negative sine 50, and then cosine. And then you just plug in V1, V2, so 2, 9. Then if you solve this, you get the components of the vector V in terms of the primed coordinate axis. Naintindihan? So plug in lang siya. Naintindihan, guys? Oh, may no ulit. Sige, ano yung may question? Ayan, yes na siya. Sure? Okay lang magtanong, guys. Hindi naintindihan. Ang goal ko ngayong SEM is maintindihan siya. So, help me reach that goal. Okay? Yung iba, 4 pa lang yung nag-yes. Please answer para alam ko. Ayan. Okay. Good. Okay, good job. Ayan. Now we move on to the concept of a tensor. Okay? So a tensor is actually any mathematical object you can think of na nilalagay mo sa coordinate axis. Like vectors, ayan. Vectors, ano pa? Um, yeah, just for now, ang alam nyo pa lang na mathematical object that transforms according to certain rules of change of coordinates is the vector. Kasi yun pa lang yung example natin. But as you can see later, there are also other orders of tensors. Okay? So here, we have different orders of tensors. So we have a zeroth order tensor, or in mathematics or in physics, we call it a scalar. And then a first order tensor, we call it a vector. A second order matrix, a second order tensor, we call it a matrix. Third order, we have nothing to call it but a third order tensor. Fourth order, and so on and so forth. Now, how do you see the pattern here? Do you see the pattern here? So I hope you see the pattern. No? So these are the laws of transformation. And I hope, since madali lang naman yung pattern niya, memorize niya siya somehow. Because we will always, especially this second order, kahit hanggang second order lang, ang because we will use this a lot when we discuss stresses and strains and even constitutive constitutive equations.
Sir,
Yes.
yung first order, couldn't put
Ah,
yung Vitas
Ay.
A.
sorry, dapat V pala ito. Sorry. I will change this. Okay, thank you for noticing. Dapat V ito. Sorry. Mali lang siguro ako. Okay, any more corrections? I think M. Okay, I think yun lang naman. So thank you. Thank you. Sino yan? Thank you, Foxy. Okay? So I want you to notice one thing here. Zeroth order. Para lang meron tayong common ground on things. Yung zeroth order or scalar, sabi dito, it doesn't change with the change of coordinates. Can you think of something, a physical quantity that doesn't change according to a coordinate? The value of it doesn't change when you change your coordinate axis. Speed, I think it changes. You mean yung magnitude ng speed? Yeah, okay, pwede. Yeah. Yeah. But again, in mechanics, we don't usually just ask for the speed because it's very rarely as magnitude lang. So isang directions yun, which is the velocity. Like temperature. Yeah, that's a good example. So yung temperature, even if, for example, you pick a point in a room, right? Tapos, mag-set ka ng isang reference axis. And then, pick another point, pick another reference axis, you will still find that the temperature at that point that you chose is still the same, assuming that there is no other change in the environment. So, hindi nag-change yung temperature with a change in coordinate axis. So, yun yung isang very classic example. Okay. Okay na dito sa orders of transformations and transformation laws. Okay tayo. Okay? Yes. 7 na yung nag-yes. Okay. Sige. 2D, second order tensor transformation. So, ayan. This one, how many equations? So, how many equations does it have? So, if 2D, then ilan yung free indices natin? Yun yung magdidictate ng number of equations natin. So, we have I and J, right, as free indices. I and J. So, that means that we have 2 times 2 number of equations, which is 4. Ayan. So, mahaba-haba ang ating transformation. Ilan na pag 3D? Ilan pag 3D? 9. Tama, no? 9. Kasi nga 3 times 3. So, 9 na yung number of equations natin. So, you can see now the the advantage of knowing how to manipulate tensor equations or indicial notations. Sometimes it is called tensor equations, tensorial. Okay? So kaya siya ginamit ni Einstein. Kasi nga, doon sa kanyang theory of relativity, maraming dimensions. So, ayan. Mas madali ang buhay niya kasi susulat niya in compact form. Ganito lang. Very elegant. Yun. Ayan, so we have an example here of a 2D second order tensor transformation. So we have a tensor T with this value. Now, you might think of, sir, paano ko i-imagine itong tensor na ito sa totoong buhay? Kasi yung vector, madali lang, no? Kasi arrows, head to tail, tail to head lang, ano? So, vectors can be represented by an arrow. But how do you think tensor can be represented as a physical thing? Mahirap, ano? So, in this series of discussions, we will represent the state of stress at a point. So, ayan na. So, papasok na yung state of stress. The state of stress at a point, yung inaaral nyo dati sa ES102, as a tensor. So that you can transform it, hindi na kayo mag-Moore circle. Okay? So, mas madali na siya. Kasi, one of the limitations of the Moore circle, although it's a very good thing visually too, so is that it's very hard to expand it in a 3D setting. Yeah. So, by the use of tensor transformation laws, mas madali na siya. You just have to remember one transformation law and that's it. So, wala nang ibang steps. And another advantage is that you can easily program it. So, yung mga nagtitake ng C25, easily program indicial notations. Ayan. So, if the coordinate axis rotated 50 degrees counterclockwise, then if you plug in everything, so alam naman natin kanina yung Q, right, the transformation matrix with regards to corresponding to this rotation, right? So cosine theta, sine theta, negative sine theta, cosine theta. Yun. Now if you plug in all those things to this equation, then you will get all the components of the transform, the prime tensor. Okay? So ito yung sagot niya. You might want to check it out. Try it so that you can verify the situation. Okay? Next, 3D transformation. So in 3D transformation, of course, your Q will be 9 by 9. 3 by 3, sorry. We have 9 components and 3 by 3 siya. So components of E1 at 1. So X1 of E at 1, X2 of E at 2, and X3 component of X2 of E at 1 and X3 component of E at 1. Same with this, puro E hat 2 dito, X1, X2, X3, and E hat 3 dito sa row 3, X1, X2, and X3 per column. Okay? Okay ba? Hindi nalilito? Okay pa naman? Yan, yung iba. Just click yes if okay pa kayo. Yan. Yan, good job guys. And again, as I've said earlier, you expand this to 3 equations for the free index and 3 terms for the dummy indices. So, ganun lang, no? Yung 2D hanggang 2 lang, 3D of course, hanggang 3. Okay, now, yan, tapos na tayo. 9:04. Ayan, tapos na tayo guys. So, we discussed 2D vector transformation, tensors, uh, 2D tensor transformation, of course 3D tensor transformation. So, ayan, it's my message. So, keep up the good work. And as much as possible, you go over all the solutions that is derived in this lecture. Nasa modules din ito, so you might want to derive them again to test if you really understood it and do the module quizzes. Okay? May questions? Questions po? Wala po. Okay. Let me share something again. And so before we leave, please input all your emotions, mga reactions in this survey tool so that we know uh, what you feel. Input nyo, input kayo, react kayo, what you feel about this sem, what do you want to change, things like that. Okay? Down ang oble. I know. I'm also frustrated. Variation makes it hard. Okay. Siguro we'll make it up. Good job for Bill for creating the group. Anticipate niya siguro na magda-down ang oble. Sino pa pala yung hindi Bill, do you have an idea kung sino pa yung hindi nasa Facebook group? Complete na. Sige, thank you. Okay. Sige. Meron pang nagta-type. Breakfast kayo or coffee while in class. I'm also actually eating. Matulog kung kailangan. Take your vitamins. Just be healthy. Okay, so I guess ito na lahat ng Sige. How do we do this? Siguro sagutan nyo na lang muna yung mga topics. Ang problem ko kasi with today's issue is that paano yung feedback kasi uh, naka-embed na sa ule yung feedback kung tama yung sinasagot niya sa So I'm still thinking of a way kung down ng oble you can have at least have your feedback. So I guess we can discuss answers when complete na yung mga nagsasagot. Yeah, wala nga pala. Yeah, I also cannot know kung nasagutan nyo na yung mga module quizzes kasi nga down yung mga. So I'm still thinking on how to. Siguro we'll have a session, right? One of these days on discussing all the module quizzes. Besides, yeah. Besides, you can always repeat it. And my goal is not to test you for your understanding, but for you to really understand the lessons. Okay. Sige. Let's just hope na maayos na talaga yung update. Right? And while hoping, if you think of solutions, you can also message me if you have suggestions on how to do the class, especially yung feedback ng assessments, no? That's very important for us. Sige. And so ayan. Any questions? Wala na? Sige, I hope yeah, sige. If you have no questions, then you can end the meeting. Thank you for attending our synchronous meeting.
Thank you, sir.